Hello, I'm Bruce Harris, former Director of Casino Operations.
Ya'orana and aloha. I'm Hina, Vice President of Sales and Marketing.
I'm Miguel Mora, former Chief Gaming Officer.
And welcome to Cheques Play, where we bring the best of the very best in the casino industry.
We have past and present casino executives from the top casinos within the USA and worldwide, sharing life experiences, stories, and casino tips to be successful within the gaming industry.
The term Cheques Play is used in the casino business when a high amount of money is being wagered in one particular hand, alerting the table supervisor of the high stakes play. Cheques Play.
Cheques Play.
Cheques Play.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Cheques Play. Let's do this.
Hey, wow. Good to see you guys again, man. I tell you what, this is pretty cool.
It's been a while.
It was Thanksgiving. I was in New Jersey, and you guys, what were you doing?
I was here, traveling sometimes from here in Santo Domingo. This is paradise.
We started a brand new tradition in our family. We decided to have Thanksgiving at one of the boys' homes for this year, and then the next year will be my other son's house, and then after that will be mine.
Hina, you're going to be doing that for like years. Isn't it like 20 people in your family, kids or something like that? What is it?
Oh no, the boys that I have I just have three.
Oh, okay. That's brothers
Yeah.
and sisters, right?
It's just the family that I grew up in was in
Okay.
over 22 children. So yeah,
I got you.
you never have it at the same house for at least 20 some odd years later. I just hope that I'm alive by then.
You'll be alive.
Hey, so guys, you know, and you know, Hina, what's coming up, and Miguel, you heard about it too. April 24th to April 27th at the Sahara in Las Vegas. It is Richard Marcus. He's coming again, right, Hina?
Yes. I cannot wait because I think we have a brand new person that will be joining our emceeing crowd. I wonder who that is.
Who is that?
His initials might be BH. I'm not sure though.
As long as it's not BS.
Rumor has it.
Listen, it's Richard Marcus. It's the Global Table Games Conference and Global Games Protection Conference. My God, it's so many people. I can't imagine. You got Deborah Nutton, executive coach and a casino consultant, all sectors of the gaming industry, Wynn Las Vegas, MGM Grand, Bellagio. And you know, we have Mr. Table Games is going to be there. Hina, you know who that is.
I do. I absolutely do. That is Mr. Benny Mancini.
And
Yep.
my man, Paul Malo, Vice President of Table Games at Pachanga in California. And he co-hosted with you.
He did. We had such a good time. That was the first time we did something like that together. It was as if we had been friends for years.
And you have Todd Craven, CEO of Galaxy Gaming, London Sweeney, Vice President, Casino Ops in Bellagio. And who is the person that's going to be there from Gaming Analytics?
Ooh, Kiran Brandamahan, he is amazing. I love him. I had the opportunity to work with him. I'm telling you, his gaming analytics product is top notch.
So that's Richard Marcus, the Global Table Games Conference and Global Games Protection Conference at the Sahara in Las Vegas, April 24th through April 27th. How could you not be there?
Be there or be square.
Good one, Miguel.
Remember that?
We have the former president of Hard Rock Tampa, John Fontana. It's going to be right now with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
John Fontana,
Right.
good morning, good afternoon. I don't know what time zone you're in. You're in the East Coast.
Still morning here, right at 9.
Awesome. Hina is in Las Vegas. That's why it's a little shady behind her. She's not shady, but it's shady behind her.
A little early out there.
That's okay. It's never too early for you, John.
Oh, thank you.
John, thanks for being with us. I tell you what, it is not just a pleasure. It is absolute honor because I had the pleasure of meeting you in 2008, and that was to open up the table games and the new class of the slot operations at Hard Rock Tampa. And when you said that you agreed to be with us today, that just made our whole line of guests more complete. So thank you so much for being with us today. Yeah.
Little Christmas music in the background there.
Yeah, we'll be doing that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, we put this clock in. Our granddaughters love it. So every hour you're going to get. It should be the last one.
You know, speaking of that, when I was a kid, my parents, we had a clock with the actual cuckoo that came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That
was before your time, Hina.
No, I had one too. Remember, I'm older than you are, Bruce.
Well, you certainly don't look that. So,
John, I know you're retired now and everything, and you've been with Hard Rock for an awesome amount of years. And Hina always likes to start this portion of it, how we start the podcast off.
Thanks, Bruce. So
yes.
Out of all of the things that you could do in life, what made you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to go work for the casino? Because back in the days, we didn't have colleges or anything else like that to actually, prep you to, work in a casino besides, business administration or a hotel. So you woke up one day and said, I'm going to go work in a casino.
Well, for me, it was very different. I went to work for the Seminole Tribe of Florida right out of college in August of 1980. They had opened in December of 79 a bingo hall, the first real Native American bingo hall. And I took a job there at night being what they called a bingo paymaster. I was the guy who counted out the winnings for the players. And I took a job a couple nights a week doing that just to make some extra money. And when they got the reservation in Tampa, because they didn't always have that reservation, that was a newer reservation that they got. My boss at the time made a deal with the management company. Back in those days, the tribe had very little money. Really, truly, it's an amazing story. But they didn't have enough money or credit to build and open a bingo hall on their own or expertise. So they would engage management companies who would come in and finance and bring in the operating expertise. Well, the company they chose to finance in Tampa didn't have any background in gaming at all, even bingo. So I had been working nights at the bingo hall, and I was the only guy that worked for the tribe that really knew anything about bingo. Everyone else that worked at the bingo hall was really an employee of the management company. And he asked me to help them write a operating system. My background is in my degrees in finance, to run the bingo hall based on what they were doing in Hollywood. And I did that, and I was in Tampa in June of 82 training for the opening, and the management company asked the tribe to transfer me to Tampa, and that's how I got into gaming. I was an accountant at the time, and they brought me in as the assistant to the general manager, I think was my title, and they brought me to Tampa, and I moved in June of 82, and I've been here ever since.
But John, so there were only a couple of hundred tribal members at the time, is that right?
Well, I think when they got into gaming, there was just under 2,000 tribal members, registered tribal members in Florida. Now that number is well over 5,000.
Okay, and there's 6 reservations, I understand?
You got Hollywood, Big Cypress, Brighton are the 3 main reservations. You have Immokalee, Tampa, Fort Pierce, and Coral Springs, where Coconut Creek is.
Wow.
So 7.
And so Hina had put together one of our podcasts with a tribal group out of California. And what I learned from that particular podcast that we did was the tribal community is very much into serving the community of the tribal members. So one of the things that when I first learned that I was going to understand I was going to work with a tribal group, because I had never worked with a tribal organization, when we first met there in Tampa in 2008, I was apprehensive because my understanding prior to that, from the years I had been in the industry in Atlantic City and so forth, that if you work for a tribe, you would go there, train the staff, and not long after, because of preference, you wouldn't be there long. And I found that that was not true at all working with the Seminole Tribe in Tampa. I was totally surprised. It worked just as if it was a conventional casino property. And you worked for all your many years with the Seminole Tribe there in Tampa. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Like I said, I started in their accounting department in Hollywood in June of 80, but moved to Tampa in June of 82 to to run the bingo hall. I mean, it's really been more of a family. I found it to be more like a family-owned and operated business for all those years. And then in 2000 in Tampa, the management agreement ended. So the management company left, and I was kind of running Tampa and Immokalee and Coconut Creek for the tribe without management companies. And then, they made the agreement with Hard Rock. And Hard Rock at the time, it really was just a name licensing agreement. There was a company that came in out of Baltimore that put the financing together, and the tribe really borrowed the money. They had their credit at that time in 2000 had grown tremendously, and they brought Jim Allen in. They really served to bring in the license of the name. Then in 2007, bought Hard Rock International.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It's been we're all seeing many different stories with tribal gaming. Some of them have been highly successful. Some of them are successful, but not as high as Seminole and in the heyday, like Foxwood or Mohegan Sun. So
Right.
there is a major difference sometimes between those different operations and the different tribes. And what do you believe that could be accredited to?
Well, I mean, Native American gaming has been, there's reservations of all types. Some are urban, like Tampa. Some are very rural. And so, the market that you're in is certainly very different, right? And from tribe to tribe. And so that generates differences. And then how they get into the business, sometimes it's through partnerships with gaming corporations now are very interested. There were a lot of management companies in the early days that were going into spots that weren't even in gaming, really, that kind of follow the original Seminole models of management companies. So you have this huge variation of circumstance that drives very different gaming opportunity and experience. Foxwoods was really the first mega Class 3 casino. Was craziness in Connecticut. But now, I think Native American gaming is the biggest gaming segment in the country, if you add it all together.
As you mentioned, Foxwoods was the mega star for a long time, and now there's
it's hard. Well, it's a little like Tampa in that, I think one of the things that obviously benefits for Tampa is they're in a very strong market, kind of all by yourself.
Yeah.
That certainly is a great recipe for success. And Foxwoods was that, they were up there in the Northeast within a couple hours drive of, 50 million people.
Correct.
And there was Atlantic City and was the closest competition. So, it was much closer out of New York and certainly Massachusetts to Connecticut. The customer base there was gigantic. And that place was just, in its early days, some of the numbers I used to hear of slot machines winning $10,000 a day, were probably true.
Yeah, no, they were. And I was one of the victims, like Bruce. I got invited to go to Foxwood before they opened. And I said, Indian reservation? I don't think that's going to happen, So I stayed in Atlantic City, and then I could hear the bonuses that people were getting there. They were unbelievable because the money was so big.
Yeah, it was crazy. That was that was what, in the 90s, right?
Yes, correct. And in the early 90s.
We went up about a year after they opened because we just wanted to see what was going on. And when it first opened, it was large, but certainly nothing like it is today. But you kind of drove out into the country and there was trees, and then all of a sudden there was a casino.
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
That surprises me all the time. Every time they say, hey, we're going to go to this casino, I said, okay. And we're in a rural area. I'm like, there cannot be a casino here. And then all of a sudden it's like, boom, here it is. And it's
crazy.
All its glory, right? So
we were, when in the early days of bingo in probably 83, 84, after the tribe had their two major operations going, they put together a management company to go to other Native American tribes and finance and open bingo operations. And so one of the first ones that we did was in Prior Lake, Minnesota, which is now Mystic Lake is the casino. Mm-hmm. And it was in Prior Lake, which is outside of Minneapolis. And talk about middle of nowhere. It was the middle of nowhere. And the little town there, Prior Lake, was just a tiny little town, probably 30 miles outside of Minneapolis. In those travels, we did, I think it's called Casino del Sol now, outside of Tucson, again, kind of out in the middle of the desert. So, they were a little remote, certainly outside of town remote. But there are others that are really, 100 miles, 150 miles into nowhere, and they still do nice little
I
business.
was very surprised when we saw Cass Creek, right? So that was, this is cow pasture land. There's no way that there's a casino here. And then boom.
There you go.
All of its glory. But it was beautiful. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Up against that mountain, you just went. I would have never guessed that there would be a casino this far out.
Turning Stone in New York is that way, and there are lots of others I haven't been to that are just, you just kind of drive along in the countryside, and all of a sudden.
But did you ever imagine? And I go the term that I use, I call it bingo to billions, because you were from the renderings or pictures, the old pictures I saw from the bingo hall. I don't know if it was, like you said, if it was in the exact spot that the property is now located.
It was.
But there was a story about the reservation and how it moved from a certain area, and because it was taken by some other company or something, then they no,
what happened was originally the Tampa reservation came into being because they were building a parking garage downtown Tampa, Fort Brook parking garage, and they uncovered a burial site. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, a bunch of federal law kicks in about Native American burial sites. So what happened was the tribe reached an agreement with Hillsborough County and the state of Florida. The tribe bought the property where the casino sits today, just outside of Tampa, and they exhumed all the remains, reinterred them on the reservation today, and gave that land back to the city and took the property that the casino is on today, the original 8.5 acres that they purchased out there, and then built a bingo hall on. So they built a museum as a marker for the grave site. And then, Bobby Henry and his family moved up from the Naples area to populate the reservation with some tribal members. And they opened a smoke shop selling cigarettes. It was really a trailer, a double wide trailer, and then started construction on the cultural center and the bingo hall.
I just learned something new today. That is amazing.
Yeah.
It was, that's when I got involved. Like I said, I went to work for the tribe in August of 80. And they had just opened the cigarette shop, and out of this little double wide trailer, they were selling. The lines of traffic out into the road were crazy. They were selling, 50,000 cartons of cigarettes a month, and then immediately started construction on the cultural center and museum and the bingo hall.
So John, when I keep thinking about this transformation, because you were there from the beginning, bingo hall. And guys like us and our generation coming through the casino industry, we really couldn't move up in one location because, somebody had to die to move up.
Right.
And so when there was this proliferation of gaming throughout the United States, that's how we get our bones and everything. We learn what we can, and then we would latch on to open a new property, and then and grow in your career and so forth. I don't want to. It sounds morbid. Did somebody die and you took their place? And
no.
Many people died. And you kept taking everybody's place, and after everybody was dying.
When I first moved to Tampa, I kind of moved as the top employee on the tribal side, so the only person I really reported to on the property was the what they call the manager partner of the management.
Are you tribal?
No, I'm not.
You're not even, you got to be honorary tribal by now.
I'm Sicilian, so that's the only tribe.
All right. They don't have honorary tribal members or nothing?
No, I'm almost as close as you can get, having been around them for most of my life. It's funny. My mother worked for the tribe when I was 12. She went to work for the tribe. And she worked for them for 42 years.
Nice.
So I kind of started.
They got to break you off a little something, a little something. You know what I mean?
Right. Listen, the Seminole Tribe has been such a blessing to me and my family that I can't even express,
Yeah.
But no, we started bingo, and then in the late 80s, we started to try to see what we could do with some type of gaming machine. We were at the Gaming Expo in Las Vegas, and we met a company out of Atlanta that was selling lottery machines. And we had started selling pull tabs, paper, break open pull tabs.
That's class 1 or class 2?
It was class 2. We did it as class 2.
Okay.
Class 1 was originally, when they passed DIGR, Class 1 was traditional native game and really had not much to do with gambling at all. They were horseback games and throwing games and that more games of skill.
Prizes and things, right?
Yeah, and Class 2 was described as bingo and games similar to bingo, and Class 3 was everything else.
And that's random numeration generators and so
that's
forth.
exactly the way the act reads. Everything else.
Yeah.
So we found these guys, and they were selling these lottery machines to state. They were electronic lottery machines. I looked at them and said, really a pull tab is a slot machine on paper. Really is what it is, a scratch off. And the statistical side of that is the difference between a slot machine and that is that if there's a 3-reel 10-stop slot machine, that's 1,000 possible combination. Well, when you play a slot machine, so you really technically have 1 in 1,000 chance of a particular outcome. But every time you pull the handle, it's 1 in 1,000. All the difference in a pull tab is if you have 1,000 pull tabs in a deal of pull tab, once you buy one, the odds the next time are 1 in 999, and then 1 in 998. So it's called random selection, either with replacement in a slot machine or without replacement. So we were selling pull tabs, and I looked at this machine and said, these guys should absolutely be able to just make a pull tab on an electronic machine. It's really not very different than what they're doing today, and we could make them look like slot machines from the front. And so we worked with those guys, and we brought those machines to the floor, I think in '89, and they just took off. It just went crazy, and we called it a Class 2 pull tab, and the government disagreed, and we spent a few years in court, but operated the whole time. So
North Dakota has hit the jackpot with tax revenue from electronic pull tabs. Since the form of charitable gaming came to the state in 2018, gaming revenue has more than doubled. Despite 2020 experiencing fewer people going to bars, it was the first year ever revenue from gaming reached $1 billion. The reason why? The number of e-pull tab machines exploded from around 480 to more than 3,300. And the number of sites offering them grew from 130 to 655. Starting in July, it will be the first time that revenue from gaming will fund the entire gaming division within the Attorney General's office, with 7 new employees hired to help with enforcement and auditing. Attorney General Wayne Stenjum says by the end of the biennium, the state will have made about $26 million from the enterprise, compared to about $6 million last.
The change that Bruce talks about in 2008 was when the first machines we had, we flagged as Hard Rock in 2004, and we had machines that were based on bingo. If anyone will remember those machines, they actually had a little bingo card on the face on the screen, and
I've never seen them. No.
Yeah, Charlie Lombardo, who is a slot machine legend. Jim Allen brought Charlie in, and we worked with companies out of Vegas that created this bingo-based slot game where you actually played a game of bingo every time you played, and it presented like a slot machine. And we called those Class 2, and we had all kinds of legal opinions that they were Class 2 games. And then and we were playing those and doing fine with them. And then with the signing of the compact in 2000, I think 7 is when we signed it, and 8 is when we really started to move on it. We got standard Class 3 slot machines at that time. So that kind of was the progression of the electronic gaming for the Seminoles anyway. I just happened, my career track was, first of all, until there was a Hard Rock tag, I don't think anyone knew Tampa existed in the gaming industry. It was highly profitable, probably one of the more profitable gaming locations in the country, but it just wasn't on anyone's radar. So from a career standpoint, it wasn't like there was people looking or headhunters asking. But every time I thought about leaving the tribe to go expand my career in gaming, the business changed and morphed and grew, and we added something new. And so I just never, on a personal standpoint, never needed to move. And was lucky enough that I had a long-standing relation with the tribe, and they wanted me to be there. And then the other big stroke of luck and opportunity in my career was Jim Allen. Jim came to the tribe at a time when I was really the top gaming guy, even though I wasn't running all the gaming operations, but the most experienced gaming person that worked for the tribe. and what Jim was able to accomplish, was something I could never have done because no one paid attention. I mean, for instance, we never had a players club in all those years that we had those machines. Not because we didn't want one or didn't know the value of one. None of those companies would answer the phone. They didn't know who we were, certainly didn't know who I was. And then when they kind of found out, you had all this stuff going on in court, and the gaming jurisdictions in Atlantic City and Nevada did not look kindly on companies that were doing business with Native American tribes, especially those that didn't have a compact and all that stuff. So even the ones that you could get their attention and say, hey, look, we actually have some money. We can afford your system. Once they found out the legal situations were hesitant to do business because they were worried they'd have licensing issues in other jurisdictions. That all changed with our first compact. And certainly Jim Allen and the folks he brought in, like Bruce and all kinds of folks that were brought in, had credibility in the industry all over the country. So, a guy like Charlie Lombardo calls IGT or one of those companies, they're going to answer the phone, and so that's really what we needed to get over the hump from this kind of small, doing our best to nail together systems to being able to get the big companies involved.
But going through, John, all those things that you have mentioned, I'm not too knowledgeable on tribal gaming, and I think you might have faced a whole bunch of different situations. The question that I want to ask you is, I know that Seminoles, they have their own gaming commission, kind of say.
Absolutely.
Does that interact with the state, or are they self-regulated through that commission, or do they answer to the state of Florida?
Well, no, they're self-regulated. One of the parts of the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act was that you could achieve a operating standard and system standards in which you could get designated to be self-regulating. The Indian Gaming Commission had some oversight. There was some reporting, and once you reach that point, they really were there, but they really have very little to do on a day-to-day basis. Now in Florida, there was never a gaming commission. There is now. Just this past year or two, they established a gaming commission in the state. Before that, it was done under the Department of Business Regulation, and they handled the racinos and in the earlier days, well, still horse tracks, dog tracks, high lie, all the pari-mutuel wagering. So, the relationship with the State Gaming Commission today, I think, is kind of voluntary because it's laid out in the gaming compact between the state and the tribe, that they'll have a certain amount of oversight or ability, and there'll be a certain level of reporting to the state. And that's all contained in the tribal state compact today.
Does the state have any type of power to regulate them, or do they go by what?
No, I think the whole Native American gaming industry is based on an older public law, PL 186, where tribes, federally recognized tribes, are beholden to comply with all state criminal prohibitory law, but can establish their own regulatory law.
Okay.
So, for instance, bingo was established under that concept. Bingo was legal in the state of Florida, but it was regulated as to who could do it, how much they could pay out, and that kind of stuff. The tribe's position was, well, under public law, maybe it was 180, it's legal, so we can do it, and we can regulate it the way we want to regulate it. They had we could have huge jackpots that the charity bingos just couldn't pay.
Wow.
And so that construct of law still kind of applies, and it applies for all Native American tribes. And then it got kind of codified under the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, where it specifically spoke to Native American gaming. It was the first law that did.
It's the same they use for the card games, since the state would allow them for the fun nights and
exactly. There was a lot of talk early on, but right after IGRA passed in the late 80s, I was screaming, we should go get slot machines. We should go get crap tables and blackjack tables. I said, look, they're having casino nights, charitable casino nights all over the state. We have that behind us. And the other thing at the time was when they passed the law, and really when Foxwoods took off, the National Gaming Commission was in theory allowed, but it wasn't. No one was seated. There was no one there wasn't a commissioner appointed by the president. There was none of that stuff. And the more aggressive tribes just started laying in Class 3 casinos. And by the time the National Commission got their feet under them, they were established, and so they were it's much harder to stop them, to close them, than it is to stop them from opening.
Correct.
So my position was, let's get in under the wire, but the Seminole Tribe has always been very respectful of the law. They've always done things very conservatively and taken all the steps that they feel are the proper legal steps to take. And they've never been in that where they just go do it and let's do it and we'll beg. It's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission, right?
Yeah.
They've never taken that approach. And I think it served them well because they have a great reputation.
Yes, they do.
With all the years of experience that you have, you are now fully 100% retired?
I am. After I retired, we talked to a couple people about doing some consulting, and especially in Native America, because by the time I retired, Tampa was certainly very well known in Native America. And so I had a little bit of cachet at the time, still had a little juice. I talked with a couple of companies about, a couple of them reached out to me about consulting, especially in Native America. But the travel was just something I didn't want to do. My family's here now, and to be gone 2 and 3 weeks at a time it wasn't attractive to me. So we let those opportunities go away. And then, as time passes, and now it's 4 years, the people forget who you are really fast. I've been so blessed, personally, that to be happy and relatively healthy, and now with my family growing, my son, has children, I have grandchildren. So my days are pretty full. I'm happy where I am.
You don't have to travel. You don't have to travel as much.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a different world today. After COVID, you don't really have to travel anymore. So, but I think, I think I'm probably away from the cutting edge, certainly in bleeding edge, so it would take a little bit to ramp back up to speed, I think, and for more than most of the real basic stuff. And most casinos today, they're bringing in consultants, have the basics covered. They're looking to fine tune and maximize profit. So there's folks a whole lot closer to what's going on today than me.
Right. Well, can I well, that's how we're kind of we're staying in touch by talking to people like you and some other folks that are currently in the business and so forth. But but while you're talking, I can't help but to think about when I first got to Tampa, myself and Bill Scannell. Remember Bill Scannell?
I do.
And so we got there the same time, and we were the first guys in the table games side, other than Lenny and Quinn,
right?
That we were going to bring in the grassroots stuff, right? And I remember getting there. I remember September the 1st. I was in Las Vegas prior. Bill and I started on the 3rd, but we were there toiling around the property. And I think Lenny said, well, that's the president right there, John Fontana. I said, no, he said, that's the president. He didn't say your name. And the first thing I says, damn, I was always a Doobie Brothers fan. There's Michael McDonald over there, president of the casino. God damn it, I'm a musician, girl. And all the guitars are hanging up. It just made sense. The Hard Rock, Michael McDonald. Shit, I'm going to love this place. It's gonna be amazing. Here he is.
I do get the Michael McDonald thing once in a while. And I get, who's the guy, the director, movie guy? Francis Coppola. I get that one once in a while.
Ford Coppola.
Okay.
And I say, I wish I had those guys' money. But
Michael McDonald all the way, man. But thinking about him, I know Charlie Daniels, the late great Charlie Daniels was just a staple in our property. And I know that you and him had such a relationship, and that's why he had the angel benefit going on for quite some time. Tell us about that.
Well, Charlie found, and I'm not sure how he found them, but there's a nonprofit up in Pasco County, just north of Tampa, that takes care of, there are folks that have very debilitating diseases, but they're not life-threatening. And these folks are not ambulatory or just really in trouble. And as these folks age, their families, it becomes much harder to take care of them. And it becomes very difficult on these families. So this is a home, it's a residential home for folks who are in that position. And somehow Charlie found them, or they found Charlie, and they started a benefit concert. Charlie's very, very charitable guy. Charlie was an amazing man, first of all. But they started doing these concerts in St. Pete, and Charlie would bring in, he'd reach out to other people in the music industry and bring in bands. Early on, the Marshall Tucker Band was another big kind of Southern rock band.
Yeah.
And they did this benefit concert for them for several years. And then we found them through a radio station that we were advertising. The local country radio station here in Tampa was a big supporter of the event, and we were a huge advertiser, and they kind of brought us together to bring the event to the property. So that's how we got hooked up with them. We did it for, I want to say we did it for 10 years, 9 or 10 years. The last 9 or 10 years I was there. And so I got to know Charlie and his wife Hazel, and they're just beautiful people.
Absolutely. Fantastic musician. I mean,
great musician.
You know, he was not just what you call country blues hillbilly. He was a amazing jazz artist. Jazz artist. You know,
Charlie was a great musician. Charlie once told me a story. He lives in Nashville, and when he was young, he moved to Nashville. And Charlie toured for over 50 years. Mm-hmm. But he was tapped by a studio to play guitar on a Bob Dylan album that Bob Dylan recorded in Nashville. So
when Dylan came to town to do Nashville Skyline, they booked 15 recording sessions to do the entire album. They had a really good guitar player booked that had worked with him before. It was booked for all 15 sessions, but he couldn't make the very first one. For some reason, he was booked on another session, and they asked me to come in and fill in for him, which I did. And I was playing guitar, and I literally hung on everything that Dylan did. Every chord he played, every note that came out of his mouth, I was sitting there looking at him and playing. And when the session was over with, I was packing my gear up. I was fixing to leave. And Dylan asked Bob Johnson, "Where's he going?" He said, "He's leaving. I got another guitar player coming." And then Bob Dylan said 9 words that changed my life. He said, "I don't want another guitar player. I want him." Now I'll tell you why it changed my life, because he was always had a big enough heart that he put.
Charlie had all kinds of connections in the music industry, and he used to bring folks that were very young country artists who shortly after that kind of exploded onto the country scene. And if you know country music at all, bands today like Florida Georgia Line mm-hmm. were just little bar bands when Charlie brought them, and now they're major country acts. So he was great at that. He really always was helping folks up, and my wife Marilyn and I struck up a beautiful friendship with he and Hazel, and we went to visit them in Nashville. We were there when he got inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Oh wow. That was your buddy. I know that was your buddy. I thought I was going to get fired, man, one time, because I was telling his boys to quiet, because they had remember the lounge, what was it called? The lobby bar,
lounge.
The lobby bar.
Yep.
It had a lounge, Miguel. And so when Charlie came in, he would have, they would have nights of, how many days did they? So they would have a band, and they would change bands. A different band would come in, but they were loud as I don't know what. And the customers were they were gambling. But the big thing was the band, because the benefit, Charlie and John were tight. So and I'm the casino manager at night, myself and Scannell. And we weren't worried about gambling. We weren't worried about any music. So they're loud. I said, hey guys, not so hard on the cymbals. Use the paper sticks instead of the real wood sticks.
You sussed them?
Yeah, this is money. We're making money. It's drive revenue, control costs. I'm trying to control the costs. And I get over there and I say, come on, hey guys. Yeah. To the by the time I got to the pit, damn. So me and this one guy, now we're not getting along. We're not seeing eye to eye. He says something unkind to me. Now I'm not being professional. I said something unkind to him. It's professional in my eyes. I think I'm Italian. I'm like, hey, you died and made you boss, And next thing I say, hey man, don't mess with those. It's Charlie Daniels, and John Fontana. I said, oh, this day 3. I'm thinking my name's already on the on some kind of report.
It was a little crazy back then, because the original
crazy
Hard Rock Casino was not laid out for that. I mean, we didn't have an entertainment venue.
No.
And we wanted to have music. So we would have, sometimes there'd be a DJ in the lobby lounge, and they would be loud, and it wasn't just you. The hotel front desk was right across, and they couldn't check people in. They couldn't hear people. They couldn't hear each other to check into the hotel. It was a little crazy.
It was a blended environment, but we were making
It definitely
money.
was.
Money was just falling out of the ceilings. Still. So that's another question. So when coming, and I think I was trying to say this before, coming up from a bingo hall in these different stages, who had the vision to know that, okay, here's where our net profit is, and here's our expenses, here's our cost of revenue, our actual net profit, and you saw your P&L. Who could see the vision that to grow and reinvest, to expand, and which property was outperforming the other, Hollywood or Tampa?
Well, before Hard Rock, it was close. Hollywood and Tampa were pretty close in EBITDA. I think Hollywood, it would go back and forth a little bit. And then, I would, in the 90s, there was still a management company there, and the arrangement was that the management company had to pay their share of any capital improvement. Well, as their contract started to run out, they're saying, wait, why should we invest all that money when we're not going to be here? Because they knew they weren't going to be there. Mm-hmm. So I had a hard time getting the carpet cleaned, for a long time. But I would, as I mentioned, my mother worked for the tribe for years, and the tribal elders who were the leaders then knew me from when I was a young teenager. So I think in their heads, for a long time, I was Gene Fontana's son. I wasn't John Fontana, the general manager of that property. And so I would go to them and say, look, we didn't even have a restaurant stand. I had no juice at all. It was a concession stand, like a cafeteria. We didn't even have a restaurant in the place, let alone anything else. And I would say, the parking was a mess. I said, listen, and we were making $150 million a year at the time. I would say, let's take 20 million, give me a $20 million budget just to renovate. Let's put a real restaurant in, improve the parking. $20 million, what are you, crazy? And then on the side, you had the management company really balking at it because they didn't want to put in their $8 million or whatever their cost would be. And then really though, the architect, so, I would say I always thought there was more to do that we could have done. But the true vision of what you see there today is all Jim Allen. Jim he's a true visionary when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's what he loves to do. I think Jim would rather be under construction and building than anything else, which is why you see Hard Rock all over the world building and opening and doing that stuff. I think that's where he's really happiest. When things settle down to, let's just run what we got, Jim starts to lose interest, I think. He's always looking for something new. But Jim was the vision. And James Billy, the chairman at the time, I think was a very visionary guy who
is he still alive?
Risk-taking kind of guy, but what you see with the Seminoles, to the Seminole Tribal gaming and business interest, where they own, Hard Rock International, that was all Jim buying Hard Rock International. The things you've seen him do, like buy the old Taj and the expansions, that's all Jim Allen. Jim is just an amazing guy with a motor that doesn't stop and a vision, to me, and again, having only been here and really only worked with the folks that came here, I really can't say it based on knowledge of knowing some of the other giants in the industry, but I think Jim Allen's certainly one of the most legendary and certainly successful and amazing people in the gaming ever.
He was a line level employee.
Jim started in the restaurants in Atlantic City. Jim was I think he started as a busboy in a restaurant in Atlantic City. So been in the business since he was 18, I think. And just an amazing guy. And on top of being brilliant and very hardworking, just so loyal. I'll tell you, you talk about the progression of, my position and how did I get to where I ended up. When the management contract ended and then Jim came, the tribe brought Jim in to be the head of gaming for the tribe. I thought for sure, we're 250 miles away from his office. We were certainly the most profitable one for the location for the tribe. I'm thinking, oh, here it comes. He's going to bring someone in that he knows, can get us from where we are to where he sees us going. And I think no one in the world would have blamed him, including me, for making that kind of decision. But I met with him, and he said, look, we got lots to do, a long way to go, things you haven't done, but I think you can do it if you want to work hard and stay. I said, Jim, here's what I'll tell you. As long as you're loyal to the tribe, you won't find someone that will work harder. I'm a great instruction follower. I will get us through whatever wall is in front of us, as long as you're loyal to the Seminole Tribe, because they've been loyal to me. And I think he took that to heart. I think he appreciated it. And he gave me a chance. He really gave me a chance to do something. And so I was blessed with opportunity.
But now that I've been retired for 4 years, I've been retired for a couple myself. And there is something always that drives you, like, what do you miss the most? Like in my case, I miss being close to the employees, talking to them, talking to the customers, innovating, doing things. And at a certain time when I'm by myself, I think I like to be back doing this. And I miss a little bit of the business. What in your case?
Yeah, I think the same. I think the same thing. I mean, I certainly miss most of the people. We were, and Bruce will tell you, from Tampa, we had, I went to work there, I was 22. When I left, I think the count was there were like 18 grandchildren of people I worked with when I got there, working at Seminole. So for me, it was family. We started with 80 employees when we opened, and when we transitioned to Hard Rock, there were 504 employees. 502 transitioned to the Hard Rock brand with me. 2 of them retired. It was just time for them to retire. So, a lot of really long relationships. So for me, it was always the people and the people I work with, and a lot of the customers, that you get to know that if you've been in the business, there's customers and there's customers, right?
Yeah.
And
name a few.
So, I got to meet a lot of great people, people like Charlie Daniels, and I got to meet a lot of celebs. That was fun. That was the fun part.
Yeah.
But I think I miss more the people, being around those folks every day. And I still keep in touch with a fair number, but and I'll still see people. It's funny, I'll be out in shorts and a ratty t-shirt at Home Depot, and I'll run into someone, that worked with me, and oh, Mr. And they're still calling me Mr. Fontana, so it's funny, you work with that many people. I think when I left, we had close to 3,000 employees. And you can't know everybody, right? There's 3 shifts of people, you can't, and I tried to, as often as I could, get on a gray shift or come in early or stay late.
He had second thoughts when table games came, though, because table games wasn't playing. Hey, it's not. We want the salad bar over here. We want. Where's no toaster? Where's the hot dogs? Where's no hot? Come on, John. Tell the truth.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a whole. The table games dealers were a whole different animal. I can tell you that. I want. Who are these guys?
A lot of love.
Who are these guys? Remember, Bruce, when we started.
I remember.
Lenny and Howard wanted to try some different things that they thought were, since we were kind of on our own and people were coming in and there's a lot of established ways to do things in the established markets. They were saying, they decided there wasn't going to be a tote committee. Remember that?
I remember.
I sure do. Someone had to explain to me what a tote committee was.
Right.
Okay? And then tell me we weren't going to have one.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and they're making 120,000 a day.
The toke rate there is still amazing, but
120.
I mean, what was the toke rate? $50-$60 an hour. Crazy
45
numbers.
average. Because they're listening, John. These table games people listening, so we got to be careful. Okay, all right.
Okay, I'll be careful. But listen.
Well, don't forget, sort of the slot attendants are listening as well when the table games came in, right? So it's like, who are these people?
Took over.
Exactly.
Took over.
How can they get a better lounge?
You're who? I'm the president. Are you so?
Yeah, you were the enemy. You didn't want to be the president. I mean, that was like wearing a target. But we learned a lot of stuff, and then you learn that they're people like everyone else, and they're trying to make a living and get along, and there, I think there's a history, a very contentious history in the gaming industry between dealers and management. And in markets where it's unionized, you know, makes it that much more contentious. And I think I never expected, I mean, I didn't really understand that world. And I think you guys coming in did.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, it can't be that crazy. It can't, you know, and I think that there's coming in, there was just the expectation or knowledge that management and dealers were going to be at each other all the time.
The difference was, John, and I can tell you from opening, I opened up several properties, and I was with Howard and Joe, but we have been all over around the country, you know, Indiana, you know, Illinois, Las Vegas, Detroit, Michigan, all these places. The difference was Seminole property was probably one of the first properties of all of the 9 or 10 properties that I opened where the legislature did not have an expectation or a mandate that we hire 80-90% local residents, which would be new. So 80-90% of our staff were from all over the country, experienced.
Right.
And so they had their own expectations from wherever jurisdictions they came from. Great staff, though. I mean, great staff, I mean, skilled, able to handle the action. And if you can remember, John, I know you do, you had the local, the existing staff members that were there prior to coming in that we opened up the school for them to become dealers because they were going to be the highest paid, you know, so we want to take and reward people from within, which we should do, and which we did going forward too. And we had over 400 people in the school, but when it came time to offering positions, we only offered like 67.
Right.
But really that was something that was interesting because, you know, the culture was totally a shock to the system. Mm-hmm. It was like
absolutely was.
Yeah. Taking a
it
shock
was a
to
lot
the
of us in there. It was a lot of us in there. You even see it in the employee dining room. There was
huge.
We had remember we had an extra space because we didn't have enough room in the EDR. And so there's a room across from the EDR that we put tables in.
Yep.
In the annex. And that's where the dealers went.
Yeah.
And you looked in there, it was always all dealers.
Yep.
You know, and the slot attendants were, and everybody else was separate. It was hard. You know, I really tried to get away from that and well, you know, you tried to get away from that, and it was hard because the dealers it's such a different culture.
Yeah.
You know, and it was very, very, and a lot of them were, like you say, moved to the area from all over the country,
yeah. Out west, up north, down south, Puerto Rico, but I got to tell you, it was in my career that was the biggest. And I came from MGM. I came from other big properties, Caesars, not Caesars Las Vegas, but other huge properties. And MGM Detroit was huge. And, but there was the biggest action I've ever seen in my career. And so that gave you a little bit of attitude, make you have your chest out when you have guys out there. And then they have a mortgage on the layout. There's, the Asian crew came in from from Malaysia. Remember, John, those guys came in and they had some huge limits. Guys will have $500,000 a hand they can bet, So you got, 1.5 million on the layout. And, let a card be out of place.
Right.
That's their job. But there was a lot of interesting things that happened. And we went bingo the billions, and that you were the guy. And John, so the respect for you, for what you did and how you did it was just amazing. I just got to sit back and watch. And the other part of the question, I know I'm getting a little talkative, but I'm remembering we opened in 2008 table games. It was the Super Bowl too.
Right. Oh, yes.
Super Bowl.
What a nightmare.
Tampa. I never worked in the casino. I was calling guys in Vegas. Says, guess what? We had to close the doors. We had to shut the casino down. There's too many people in the casino.
What? We wanted to do we said, the Super Bowl, we got to advertise, we got to get out there, we got to have events on property, to bring people in. Well, that was crazy. You're right. That night, that Saturday night, I was there. Jim O'Connell was a director of security. I said, Jim, we can't let anybody else in. It's crazy. So I go, what he goes, well, I can't lock the doors. I said, well, let's do this. Let's put folks, we did. Well, we eventually did, because what happened is we put folks at the entrance, all the entrances onto the property, and we didn't let cars turn in. And we figured if we did that for a couple hours, the people leaving,
they were down the
we'd
street.
be okay. They were parking in the neighborhood across the street and walking in. So I get on the radio, I'm screaming at Jim. I said, Jim, there's still people walking in. Why? I thought John, they're walking from, I can't stop them. They're walking across the street from everywhere. And it was really crazy. I remember talking to Jim Allen the next morning. He called me, he goes, John, did you actually lock the doors on my casino? I said, Jim,
I called people because I can't believe it.
You couldn't wedge another body in. It wasn't like there was a spot to gamble. There wasn't,
Jordan over.
We had a big celebrity event in the Hard Rock
Jordan over
Cafe.
here. We got Alex over here. We got Deep Jeter over here. We got who's G.I. Jane? Who was her and her boyfriend? They were yelling at me.
Chris Willis and his wife.
Willis. We got
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore. She's yelling.
Demi Moore, right?
Bruce, give me my French fries with some mayonnaise. And I wouldn't give her boyfriend. Who was the boyfriend? The comedian guy. He was
Jim Carrey.
No,
Jim
the
Carrey.
other guy. No.
Oh, Carrey was there with what's her name?
Ashton
I can't
Kutcher.
remember.
I couldn't give him a shuffle. Lenny said I could only give one shuffle for 24 hours. And I'm like, even Jordan, these guys, you go one shuffle. Bruce, I want another shuffle. Give me my mayonnaise and French fries. I'm like, and I'm running over here. I was like, normally I'm like cool, right? I was all over the place.
It was funny. I went to work on Friday that weekend, and I slept in a room for about 2 hours Friday night and took a shower. Then I worked straight through from Saturday morning at, 3 or 4 in the morning till kickoff, 36 hours. And I was going to go to the game. I said, I'm not going to the game. I went home. Right at kickoff, I walked in the front door. I sat in my chair with my shoes on and fell asleep. Didn't even see the game. I woke up Monday morning with my work clothes and my shoes on and a recliner.
Wow.
Bruce Smith came up to me. Bruce Smith said, Bruce, come here. Bruce, come here. I said, what, Bruce?
What?
He says, I got a secret. You can't tell anybody. I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. I said, what? You're going to be in the Hall of Fame? I said, shut up. I just told you not to say anything,
Yeah, we had the Dick Buckus and all those football guys there from the
legends.
To take care of
the legends.
They take care of football players who beyond retired, that there's no pension for those guys, there's no medical for those guys. A lot of those guys get in financial trouble. Dick Buckus.
Mike Ditka.
Mike Ditka was here too. He was there.
That was his Legends event. Yes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We really figured we should do everything, and we could have done nothing, and the place still would have been packed beyond our ability to handle it.
And
it was so crazy.
And you don't miss any of that, being retired.
There's like I said, I miss most of the people, both that I work with and guests. You miss those exciting times. I mean, it's fun. You can't say it's not fun to have some celebs on property once in a while. And we had Bruce Springsteen, who Jim Allen is a huge fan of Bruce Springsteen, and his daughter does equestrian jumping, or did at the time. And there's a big equestrian center across the street from the casino. And that was my first experience in walking a guest out of the hotel. A dentist we only had 2 suites when we first built the place, 250 rooms, 2 multi-room suites, 2, 1 2-bay suite and 1 3-bay suite. That's all we had in the hotel. And so this guy, a dentist, I can't remember his name, out of Chicago, had rented the 3-bay for 2 solid weeks, full boat, no discount. He sent his family down, and then he followed him down for this equestrian thing. I get a call from Jim Allen about, 3 or 4 days into their stay, saying, listen, I just got a call from the agent for Bruce Springsteen. His daughter is going to come and jump. I want you to put him in the Apollo suite. I said, Jim, Apollo suite's rented. He goes, well, you're going to have to move that guest out. So this guy's, I mean, I think we were charging back then. This is 2004 or 5, something like that. I think we're charging him $1,500 a night. Not a huge number, but in this market, a gigantic number.
Yeah.
And he's paying full boat, no discount. 10 or 14 nights. His hotel bill was $25,000. I said, look, I have another suite. It's smaller. I have to move you down there. We need the suite. I go, I'll comp your stay. So it was like a $15,000, $20,000 comp. He wasn't having it. Okay. He got really mad, but he didn't really have a choice. So we moved him down, and then he sees Springsteen. He goes, oh, I know why you moved me out of that suite. You put Springsteen in that suite. He goes, I'm telling you right now, I'm renting that suite next year for this event. I want to make my reservation right now. Sure enough, same thing next year. Well, it was a week before Springsteen decided to come. So I had to call the guy on the phone and said, listen, I know you had the reservation. That guy called me everything that you can think of. He stayed somewhere else. But it was, I'll tell you, walking that guy was hard. And even though I walked him to another suite, good thing I didn't walk him off property. It was crazy, but those times were difficult but fun. You look back, you can look back on them now and say, "That was funny. That was fun."
They'll be in the book.
Yeah, and you get good at it after a while.
You do get good at I think it's if there's ever a casino manager's course, there should be a whole chapter and week of study in kissing a guest's butt. You got to get good at it.
Yeah.
You got to get real good at it.
You have to be good.
You have to go through the Eddie DeBartolo School of Management.
Another great guest who was the nicest guy in the world, but a good man, a very charitable, good man.
The philanthropy, yes.
I always loved the ones that said, Hina, do you know who I am? And half the time I really want to say, yes, I do. And your show canceled. The movie's not great. So yes.
We had a gentleman by the name of, on that level, what we just now mentioned, John. I don't know if you ever heard the name, because he's from Florida, Roger King.
Yeah.
The late Roger King. If you can get through that school, you can get through anybody.
You dealt with Roger and you handle yourself well, you can handle anybody. I dealt with Roger directly many times when I was the pit boss at the showboat at the Baccarat pit. Roger was in a class by itself.
Oh yeah, you get them. I mean, when we had the Malaysian group in was another. I get told we need bird's nest soup.
Yeah.
Well, you can't buy bird's nest soup in Florida.
Right.
We had to buy it from California. It was $4,000 a kilo. We had it flown in. These guys on their table, they wanted big bottles of Opus One and Louis Trey. There had to be a bottle of each for every guest at the table, right? They opened one of each and took the others, right?
Yes.
And they were that was their menu was all planned. Their handlers had all their menu planned. It had to be just right. And again, we did that with two suites. We had them in when they saw their rooms. They were about to leave. We had these corner rooms that were much bigger rooms with a big spa tub in them and stuff. We called them Spa Kings, but they certainly weren't a suite. But we had told those guys on the way in, look, this is what's available. You want to come, because really why they came here is we took their families all to Disney for 3 days.
Yeah.
So we made do, but they were tough in the pits.
Tough.
And it was a nonstop. And you don't corporate or Hollywood's looking and watching and saying, making sure you don't do something stupid and ruin these guests so you're kind of walking on eggshells the whole time, trying not to upset anybody and whatever they asked for, I didn't even hesitate to ask, well, no matter what it cost, should I do this? No, we just did it. Whatever they need, we're going to do.
I remember
we made money on the trip, though.
Yeah, the first. I don't know if you ever got paid, but
right. It took us a long time to get paid for that trip.
Yeah, the second group kicked our tails because
we got
that
beat
second
up,
time because it was during the Masters, and
Right.
we had the private jets to take them to they were on such a lucky streak that they didn't want to go to the Masters. So I remember
we got killed.
I remember Henry or somebody came to me and says, Bruce, hey, you want to hop in the jet and just go up to Augusta and let's just go to the gift shop. Let's just fly up to them, go to the gift shop and fly back. You know, nobody's using it. He says, come on, yeah, let's go. He told Scannell and I, he says, you okay? And he said, no, wait a minute. Yeah, you better not. Something's, I don't know about that. I'm glad we didn't go. Those guys whipped our tail. We actually went to the gift shop and got these huge leather duffel bags to put the cash in so they can take.
Oh, we got beat up hard. We lost several $1 million that trip.
Several.
Yeah, I think it was 15.
That was the word. 15 million. That was the word.
I think that was it.
Yeah. So John, I tell you what,
It's better than 20 million that you would have to use to remodel.
Yeah.
Right.
But I tell you, we're gonna have to wrap it up. I tell you, this was so much fun, and
I enjoyed it.
Oh, me too.
glad.
Me too. Just to hear the history and the stories and everything else like that. I mean, that was amazing. I learned something new today.
Good. Well, I appreciate you guys having me, and anytime I can do anything for you guys, what little bit of juice I have left in Tampa, let me know.
Same here, John. Same here. Count on us. If you need us, please reach out. Bruce.
All right, you guys.
Number.
You
Have
guys
fun
take
with
care.
those fabulous grandchildren of yours.
We're looking forward. You guys have a blessed holiday and be safe.
You too, John. Much
All
hugs,
right,
man.
Take care,
Have
guys.
an
love you,
amazing
man.
aloha day.
You take care.
Thank you, John.
Bye.
Take care, Bruce.
Thanks,
Thank you.
man. Happy holiday.
And to you.
That was probably one of the most fun
Yeah.
podcasts ever. To hear his stories.
Easygoing, very nice guy. I mean, I'm glad that he was able to have that kind of career just in one place. When he said it, when he said, I only worked in one place, he said, whoa.
Yeah.
So that threw a whole bunch of my questions. Because
Nobody.
so the difference was working between Seminole and this. Well, that goes out. That goes out.
Yeah.
Right. And to start when he was 22 years old.
I've seen it happen before. I've seen it happen. Remember John Modica, the guy that
Yeah.
was the showboat?
Showboat.
He started as a security guard in Las Vegas
I didn't know that.
at the showboat.
Mm.
And rose until he became the president of showboat, then the chairman of the board.
Oh my God.
Came to Atlantic City to open the showboat in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
I've heard many of those type of stories of people started in just one place and worked their way up, and it's commendable to see that.
Well, it was fun, and thanks for
Fun as ever with you two. So thank you. Today was amazing.
It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to work with you guys.
Yep. Absolutely.
Have a good time. Happy holidays, everyone. In case we don't have a new episode,
Yep.
wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah.
Feliz Navidad.
For you, it's all in there for you. So enjoy with your family, which is the main thing. Family, number one.
Absolutely. Mwah.
Wow.
Thanks.
Cheques play. Let's do it.
Check play.
Subscribe.
Subscribe, like, and share.
Yes, please.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.